Welcome back to my podcast called Faith is Strength. I'm Nuchy. I'm speaking out of Earmont, New York. I'm helping spread the beautiful light of spirituality across the world. The date of this recording is August 24 of 2018. May my words and the expressions of my soul be gratifying to everyone who hears them. I pray that my ideas help pave a beautiful path in your journey of life. Thank you for tuning in. Thank you for having a genuine interest and desire to want to hear what I have to share. The title of today's podcast is called Self-Expression. Self-expression is quite literally an art form, similar to that of a painter or a sculptor. To master self-expression is to commit to a lifelong journey of deep thought, introspection, practice, trial and error. But what is self-expression? On a very deep spiritual level, our words and even thoughts create angels, good or bad, depending on the intentions or the content. On a more simplistic level, self-expression is, more than anything, words. The words we speak, air, vibration, energy. When I speak, I am expressing myself to you. The sharing of this podcast, the action of me sitting here and speaking and sharing ideas with you is self-expression. It is an expression of myself containing the ideas and thoughts that I have a desire to share with you. So self-expression on a simple level or on a very basic level is words. On a little bit of a deeper level or a more meaningful level, and that's why I don't call it communication or conversation, because in a deeper spiritual sense, self-expression is the expression of your insides. It's a level one deeper than just words. All humans, or most, who are able to communicate, talk to each other, but they don't necessarily fall into the category of self-expression, at least not in the sense that I'm trying to use it. They're talking. There's a difference between talking, reactions, basic communication, and self-expression. Self-expression is the next level. Self-expression is like an art form. Being good at it takes years and years of practice. It's the art of being able to articulate and bring to life your deepest thoughts, your deepest intentions, your deepest desires, and being able to do so in a meaningful and enriching way. The reason self-expression is a handy and very necessary utility for proper spiritual living is because people who live spiritual lives live healthy lives. Self-expression is a part of health. The opposite of self-expression is destructive. Keeping things in, feeling like you do not have the ability to express yourself, to let people know how you feel, to share with others your profound ideas and thoughts, is like being in prison. In spiritual living, we attempt to find all the means by which one can free oneself and live a healthy, meaningful life. Learning about practicing it in the necessary ways and becoming an agent of self-expression is by far one of the most important tools to live a healthy spiritual life. And even if you're not into spiritual living, it is an amazing tool to live a healthy life in general. So let's jump into the dynamics of self-expression a little bit and see how it works and what we need to do in order to begin practicing this art form. Self-expression saves us. Self-expression puts us in the right. Self-expression makes us happy. Self-expression is satisfying. For the same reason that going to a therapist and being able to share what's potentially bothering you the most is satisfying. Self-expression is literally that. The practice and the ability to be able to express yourself to whoever you need to or want to, in the way that you want to, in the time that you want to, properly and with confidence. There's something about the way that we grow up that instills or steals away from the human the ability or wherewithal to be expressive. From my observation and understanding of human behavior, we are more likely to be closed, keep to ourselves, and not express ourselves than we are to do it. That doesn't mean that there are no people who are sharing their innermost manifestations with the world. It just means that the average person in their life and social setting is not necessarily able to express themselves as freely and as beautifully as they potentially can. And that is either because they don't know to, they don't know about the beauty of it, or they would like to, but can't, feel trapped. And of course, this topic lends its hand in many other topics. For example, fear of public speaking, fear of social gatherings and social anxiety, communication within business dealings, communication in general. But I have good news. Learning about self-expression, practicing what it takes, will actually improve all those other areas that tie into it. Because essentially it's all one. But as we love to do in spirituality, we're working at a more intrinsic level. We are looking at words, thoughts, and the sharing of your innermost feelings as something totally spiritual, as an art. We're not merely looking at it as me telling you hello. Think about personal prayer for a moment. Personal prayer is a perfect example of self-expression. If you know about personal prayer, or if you're good at personal prayer, then you know and are already practicing self-expression. It's your innermost thoughts expressed to God. It's you telling Hashem how you feel, what you struggle with, so on and so forth. Essentially, it's you telling Him everything that you want to. You're not supposed to hold back. You could tell Hashem everything. Now, in our day-to-day life, there are times and with people that we do need to hold back. This is one of the reasons why I consider it an art form. Knowing the when, the how much, the who, these are all things that take years and years to master and get better at. During the practice of self-expression, you will make mistakes. You will go too far, or you will say too little. Those experiences will be the stepping stones and the building blocks to a beautiful vessel that is you, that will be able to beautifully express themselves in the coming years. If you've built a relationship with God over years of personal prayer, then imagine having that kind of relationship or ability to express yourself with every person you encounter, every person you know. That doesn't mean you'll be telling every person you know everything about your life. It means that you're going to learn what you should and shouldn't, how you should and shouldn't, more than anything, how to actually do it when you want to. One of the biggest points here is to free yourself from the prison of not being able to express yourself. Once you already freed yourself from that prison, then it gets more technical. What do you and don't you? How much do you and don't you? Self-expression also overlaps the whole area of honesty. Self-expression is honesty expressed. Again, a beautiful art form. There is nothing more beautiful than honesty, than truth. Self-expression is you learning about yourself, you looking at yourself, figuring out exactly what it is that you feel, would like to share, and the reasons behind them, and the ability to actually do it. That is honesty expressed. Maybe I should switch the title from self-expression to honesty expression. That's how intermingled and related this is with honesty. Lying is not self-expression. Again, at least not in the sense. Self-expression is the beautiful words and expressions of you that are honest, genuine, real. Self-expression, as I've said, will serve you. It will put you in the right. Let's see how. When you become the person that is expressive and honest, it puts you a step ahead of many hurdles in life. Say you're at work or in training at a new job, and there's a mishap, a mistake. When you become an expressive person, an honest person, reporting that mistake or expressing yourself to your employer about what happened, perhaps why it happened, and how you feel, will be a no-brainer and an everyday occurrence. So if you're in a new job and something happened, there's no question of, should I hide it? Is there going to be backlash? There's, I know what to do. Let me report it and do the right thing. And so you go and you knock on the boss's office door and you walk in, and it's a little hard, but you express yourself. You think clearly about what it is that you want to say, and you already know from your practice how to say it. It may sound something like this. I'm sorry to inform you that I made this and this mistake. It's really troubling for me, being that I'm new at this job and I don't want to come across as being incompetent. The mistake happened because of this and that. These are the steps that I propose to take in order for this not to happen again. Just clear and honest words articulated in a way that doesn't sound like you're trying too hard, just with the right balance. Or in some settings, it may be in the form of an email, or perhaps you will have documented or reported it somewhere. And then many months down the line, if there is any kind of backlash from the action, from the mishap that you did, then you are covered. You did the right thing. This is what it means, that it keeps you in the right. If you're having a little bit of a riff, you're not getting along with your friend or friends. Hey, I don't know what's going on between us. Seems like you've been a little bit distant. trying to reach out to you for the past couple months. You're not answering. This is how it makes me feel. Hurts me a little bit because we had such a close friendship for so many years. I just want you to know that I'll always love and respect you, and I'll be here whenever you're ready to talk. These little pieces of expression are like beautifully crafted artboards that can potentially turn into something so much more beautiful and more powerful and larger than itself can be worked on. It keeps you in the right, because when the friend comes to you a year later, what happened? How did we get this far? Why are we in a... You could say, and it's not just about saying, but you could say, I'm sorry, but look at those messages I sent you. I tried. This isn't... But the biggest point here is that during that period, you feel good because you know you did the right thing. Self-expression is the expression of honesty and truth. It's the expression of doing the right thing. And it all comes about through ear. We know from tradition that every word we speak creates an angel, good or bad. We know that when we utter a word, energy comes, is created. Where it goes and what it does is yet to be known. It's always different, it's always something else. But maybe now we see a little bit of the potential and how the potential actualizes. And I could give a million examples. In any subject, in any topic, in any aspect of life, it's always the same across the board. Self-expression is the expression of honesty, of truth. It lightens the load of your shoulders, takes it off, and it puts things into proper places. It puts them where they belong. When people go to a therapist, say, if they're struggling in life with something, and they share that information with someone else, and they have a feeling of the load being lightened, this makes their journey easier to walk. When people talk to Hashem and they do the same thing, thank you, Hashem. You take my problems. Hashem could handle unlimited problems. We can't. We have stress. We're humans. We're not angels. Too many problems on us stresses us out. Stress leads to all kinds of negative things and even death. Heaven forbid. Self-expression is like the ultimate. It's the epitome of lightening the load, helping you live a stress-free life. It is the ability to express yourself not only to Hashem, to your therapist, to your spiritual guide, to those handful of people who are so close to you. It's the ability for you to express yourself honestly and the way that you need to with every person appropriately. There's never anything that you keep in. There's never anything that you keep bottled up. Let's take it a step further. Self-expression, after you've reached the basic stages of being able to express yourself to those around you, those you love, those you know, self-expression can open doors to massive creativity. It will improve your writing abilities. It'll improve even your reading and comprehension abilities. It will improve your speaking, both public and private abilities. You may come to find that if you learn how to express yourself adequately, that you enjoy it so much that you might want to make it a thing. Maybe now you could get up and give a speech when you're sitting with family and friends. Maybe you're a stage person. You could go up and entertain people, motivate people. Who knows? The next level of self-expression will teach you something about yourself that you may not know, a potential about yourself that may actualize and turn into something, blossom into something beautiful. I have no idea how God gifted me the willpower to navigate this journey naturally on my own. Nobody really taught me it. I'm so grateful. As I said, it's one of the most important tools. It fixes problems too. We all know in relationships, any kind of relationship, politics, anything, it's always solved with, they always say communication is the key. Yet communication is the key, yet communication is always the biggest problem. Do you imagine mitigating that problem? How? Through communication. Could you imagine attaining self-expression, a high degree of it, through self-expression? Learning how to communicate properly through communication? Let me just get back to my journey for a sec. I'm trying to go back as far as I can. My earliest, there are 2 points, 2 things in my life that I'm thinking about when I'm trying to think how far back my pursuit of expression went and where it kind of started and how it evolved from there. When I was 14, living in Washington State, up by my grandparents on a ranch, I wasn't religious. I was 14. I was sending very long letters, pages long, back and forth with my mother, telling her, it was a little bit of a debate about religion and how cult-like the ultra-from communities are. This was at 14. So at 14, I was already able to naturally articulate myself, but it was more of a debate, although embedded within it a little bit were my feelings about how it made me feel and what I went through, so on and so forth. Now, moving forward, this is probably the most significant thing that I'd like to point out. At 17, I was working in Newark, New Jersey. At 18, I was managing the warehouse. And there were a lot of issues with my position, or issues that I felt like I wanted to share and iron out with my boss. This is 18. Remember, I grew up in the ultra-Orthodox community. They don't teach you how to open your mouth, have a conscience for yourself, anybody who comes from the community knows how they trump and choke your individuality. So just your ability to open your mouth and say something when you feel like it's not your place, or even when it is your place, you don't have the ability to. So these are all stuff that I thought and worked on my own. I constructed a list of issues and things that I wanted to discuss with my employer. I was deathly afraid, embarrassed, the whole 9 yards. And I told myself, here's what I did. I told my boss I need an hour with him. He said, no problem. Drive home with me. Drive back to Rockland County with me. We'll talk. He was a nice guy. Despite how nice he was, I was shaking. I was nervous. And when you're nervous, you can't express yourself properly. You can't share. You can't talk. You get flabbergasted. I told myself I will not leave that car until every single point, and there might have been 30 or 40 points on that list, were discussed. Sure enough, we left Newark. I pull out I was so embarrassed. I tell him, look, I know this might look cheesy. I made a list. He gave a chuckle and said, no, don't worry about it. It's really nice. From an adult perspective, from a nice person, that is a nice thing. You're seeing a teenager who's serious and taking it serious. But for me, the fact that I have to sit now with my boss for an hour and talk, express myself, how I feel, what I'm thinking, what I would like to change, there's just nothing more horrifying. You see death in front of you. I'm trying to help illustrate how I am intimately familiar how difficult this journey is. We drove home. I started going from point to point, and sure enough, we arrived at my house. The points weren't done. I stayed in this car. I finished the points. We figured it out. The job continued. things improved. It was great. Of course, after I left the vehicle, I felt good. I had pushed myself to be expressive, to communicate. Bravo, I was becoming an adult. These are things, no joke, that shouldn't be problems for an 18-year-old. These are things that should be instilled in our children from young. Learning how to be honest, expressive individuals, humans, is a must. There are no options about it. If you're 18 and you can't have a normal conversation with a person, you can't tell them how you feel or how the other person is making you feel, then you're practically a child in an adult body. That night, that evening in my boss's vehicle, forcing myself to be expressive, I believe was more or less the beginning of my journey of self-expression. From there, I always naturally and continuously push myself to be expressive when it's appropriate, share my thoughts and feelings and desires with others as I see fit. And it's a never-ending process that is getting better and better. For you, the journey may start today. It may have started a year ago, who knows? But it is imperative that you stay on the journey and continuously work. Don't pressure yourself, but continuously work. This is why we call it a journey. A journey means it's just a never-ending, lifelong process of whatever it is that we're discussing. Self-expression is a journey. It's a lifelong art form that you can learn and master and get great at and always improve on it. For you, wherever you're holding currently in the process of this journey, and everyone does fall on the spectrum somewhere or another. Some people are more expressive, some are less. But without a doubt, everyone can become more. Everyone can improve at it. Just like an art, a sport, a skill, a trait. It's something that you could improve forever, infinitely. I would like to urge you to improve it. Urge you to be conscious of it. Think about it. Work on it. It is so rewarding. I cannot describe in words adequately how rewarding reaching certain milestones in your journey of attaining self-expression is. I cannot. All I can do is invite you. Open the door. It is so beautiful. As I said earlier, you will make mistakes. Some people will be over-expressive. You know how we all know that one person who boasts about how honest and straight up they are. Even if you don't like it, sometimes I step over people because I'm just being honest. Well, they don't say they step over people, but they are. So there are people who get out of hand a little bit, and they are too expressive. They tell too many people too many things inappropriately. They hurt other people. Their expressions create backlash. Oh, these are things I'm very familiar with. I've learned with time, trial and error, when I've shared too much, and of course when I've shared too little. And there's nothing you could do about it but be thankful and grateful to Hashem that He gives us the brain and the capacity to think, understand, and realize our mistakes and move on. Try to do it better next time. Because there's so much drama, if I could call it drama. There's so much going on in our lives on a weekly basis, on a daily basis, that self-expression is not just a tool that's sitting in the toolbox that you pull out once a month. Self-expression is the utility that you use literally on a daily basis. Yes, maybe a day or two can go by where you won't have to put it to use. But within a couple days, in an average person's life that is filled with all kinds of drama, things happening, things changing, people talking, people saying, people asking, people fighting, people crying. This is life, right? The beauty of life, the cycle, the chaos. You will be able to utilize self-expression and practice on a daily basis. And begin with simple expressions, as I explained in the beginning of my journey when I forced myself to write down points and articulate them to my boss one by one, and I told myself I wouldn't leave the car without it. Start on a simple level, whatever level, wherever you're holding. Force yourself to say what you want to say if it's appropriate and it's not going to be damaging and hurt people. If you do that enough, all of a sudden it starts becoming more of an art. What starts out as wanting to share perhaps painful things will turn into you wanting to share beautiful things. And these are the next levels. These are the levels that we get to when we practice it for years. Learning how to thank people, how to tell people you love them, appreciate them. For some, most, growing up in the community, I'm just going to give another example of what self-expression is. We don't grow up with I love yous, no huggy, lovey-dovey, none of that. So the prospect of you going over to your mother or a sibling and telling them, you were always by my side through thick and thin. I want to thank you. I love you. I appreciate you. That little sentence, those couple words. I know people, I come from a community where you would quicker jump into a fire before you could honestly, calmly, and with content express yourself in such a manner. I'm very familiar with it. This is self-expression, but this is the next level. Start out with the stuff, and this comes naturally, that bother you. Don't hold in things that bother you. If somebody hurt you, you tell them. This is especially true for people close to you. It's very easy to tell someone that you're far from, that hurt you, that they're an asshole. That's not self-expression. It's much harder to tell someone close to you, you know, that action that you did, it hurt my feelings. It made me feel sad. And this is the reason why it made me feel sad. That's the beginning of self-expression. Learn how to do that. Practice that. Do it. From there, you will want to go to the next level. That's when you're really going to start expressing beautiful things. Ultimately, you'll get to a point where a day or two doesn't go by without you thanking or complimenting or enriching yours and someone else's life, because it's honest, it's true, and you actually feel it. Whereas in the past, it would never cross your mind. This is the practice of self-expression. The deep thinking, the introspection. How do I feel? And for the very advanced users of self-expression, practitioners, if you are already okay with self-expression and it's not hard for you, the strongest level, and this is something that I'm processing a lot, this is kind of where I'm holding 8 years into my journey, to be mindful when to be expressive. So I know I can be expressive, I am expressive, but I might look at myself and say, well, maybe you don't do it often enough. Maybe when a sibling helps me, or a friend helps me, or maybe when I just have a random thought, a beautiful thought. Remember, we have the utility to solve and troubleshoot issues when things are tough, when you don't feel good. But I've already gotten past that, meaning I have no issue doing that. That's going to come naturally, just like I could talk to a therapist, I talk to Hashem. If somebody hurts me or makes me feel any kind of way other than pleasant, without a doubt, I'll share it. Why? Just to lighten the load. Whether they are receptive or whether it changes anything or helps, not my problem. I have to lighten my load. I can't walk around with stress. The next level is when you have good thoughts, and these could be seemingly insignificant thoughts. You could be sitting at home thinking to yourself, wow, I'm so lucky to have the friends that I have. We went through such an interesting journey. Or, humans have thoughts. And if you're a healthy person, they are very often healthy thoughts, good thoughts, positive thoughts. The next level of this is when you're having positive thoughts and you train yourself to ask yourself, should I share it? This is like a very advanced level of it, because even a person who is able, remember able, not saying they are, a person that is able to be self-expressive, and it comes easy to them when they have to do it, even that person might not be mindful of all the times when they should. And that's one of the top levels that I've come to. I don't know what's beyond that. I look forward to it. That's basically what you're going to be getting to if you get on the journey for a couple years. When I have a beautiful thought about someone who I love, someone close to me, which I naturally do, I'm healthy, my mind produces cool thoughts, happy thoughts, I ask myself, should I share that thought with that person instead of keep it to myself? This is what it means, self-expression. You are taking what you are thinking inside, these beautiful things that you are thinking inside, and you are putting it out. You are putting it into the world. You are giving it to people. It's a high level of kindness. It's a high level of truth. It's an art. It's beautiful. It's like painting a beautiful picture that wasn't there before. From nothing to something. This is why, hence, the term self-expression. It's the expression of yourself, your most seemingly insignificant thoughts, which are actually beautiful thoughts that you've learned through hard work and crafting this art, how to bring out to the world. I've wanted to create a podcast on self-expression for years already. I remember 3 years ago I created a 10-minute video about self-expression. I didn't end up putting it online. Now that I'm doing my podcasts and my mind is clear, this is an example of self-expression. It's not necessarily easy to sit down and to articulate a thought, an idea, or concept about something like this. But what I tell myself is, I don't necessarily, naturally, I don't think to myself, I know how. How often do we want to share something? Think about this. How often do we want to share something? You could see it also very frequently, very easily with people who smoke weed. Weed gives you great ideas. Weed is very much a thought thing. It's a thought process. You have great ideas. And then when you're off the weed, just trying to explain a good, complex idea is difficult for most people. There are individuals who are exceptions to the rule. There always are. But the average person who has profound ideas on weed, forget about implementation, which never happens. Just the articulation of the profound idea becomes difficult. This is the example that I'm using to point out how often do we have thoughts, feelings, or desires that we want to share with others. We can't even find the words to share it. We can't even think of the proper expressions to get it out in a meaningful way that will be perceived correctly. This is what self-expression does and solves. This is this podcast. So when I think about making a podcast about self-expression, which the whole podcast is me being expressive, but the thought of me doing it, when I am prior to making the podcast, thinking about it, I'll have the natural inclinations that will tell me, okay, think about what you want to say. I'll start getting confused in my own thoughts. very often. That's very normal because you're trying to relay perhaps a complex idea, or you're trying to take a very simple idea and put it into simple terms. And we know simple is profound. The more simple something is, the more sophisticated it is. We learn that because we know through tradition that Hashem is ultimately simple. And if you think about it from a human perspective, he's the most complicated, complex thing that there aren't a trillion words that could describe him, and there aren't even one. But spiritually, Hashem is simple, yet he's the most sophisticated thing for us. We learn from that simple is profound, right? They say someone who could take a whole topic, a whole concept, and put it into one sentence, that's a wise person. That's an intelligent person. So we know that simple is profound. We know that the more something is simple, the more sophisticated it is. In that sense, when I'm thinking about taking a simple concept of self-expression and sharing it in proper, simple words for people to understand, I'll get lost in thoughts, and then my evil inclination, this is the standard for humans, oh, I can't do this, this is too complicated, or I'll start getting lost or lose my train of thought. But then I tell myself, no. And this is self-expression. When you tell yourself, no, I will do it. If it takes 1 take, 2 takes, 3 takes, 15 tries, a million trials and errors, no problem. Whatever it takes, I will do it. This is how you practice self-expression. I've been doing it for years, so I could have it with something as, you could say, dynamic as a podcast, and talking for 30 minutes, 60 minutes. But it all started out with something very simple, writing points down on a paper, then forcing myself to share it, 1 point at a time. The practice of self-expression is you telling yourself, no, I do want to do something. I do have things to say, to share. I will do it. I'll put on my focus glasses and use the best words, the best expressions, the most accurate and honest expressions that I have deep within me, and I will get it out. I don't care how it comes across. I don't care how many mistakes I make on the way, but I will do it. I will do it for myself. It lightens the load. It's rewarding, and it helps us live a beautiful, spiritual, expressive, and healthy life. And let me just throw in 2 more points. We have the utilities in today's day and age to make the practice of self-expression easy and lighter. For example, you don't have to begin by trying to express yourself in person. With tools such as WhatsApp and voice notes and videos and things of that nature, it makes the practice of this art lighter, easier. A lot of people have a hard time expressing themselves in person. And believe it or not, you could even have a hard time expressing yourself in person, like with a spouse. To tell your spouse how you really feel may be difficult. It is very common in relationships for people to keep things in. They don't know, and this is a very common, I don't know how to tell him. I don't know how to tell her. That's just an example, but it could be in any interpersonal relationships, friends, business, partners. So the first thing I'd like to point out is that we have a lot of tools. One of the beauties of WhatsApp and voice notes, I'm a big advocate for the way that voice notes work for a number of reasons. This is one of them. I'll share with you some others as soon as I make my second point. The second point that I wanted to bring out was that to learn self-expression, to learn how to communicate properly, to learn how to take what you feel inside and bring it about. There are books and lectures and videos and movies and an endless archive of information out there. One of my favorite books on communication, or what I like to call self-expression, because we are digging into a deeper, more essential aspect of it, the book is called Nonviolent Communication, written by Marshall Rosenberg. Check it out. Learning how to communicate and express yourself in a nonviolent manner, in an inviting manner, in a manner of trust, comfortability. It is the single most important tool in all of life's journey. There are things that we learn in life. We learn about faith. We learn values. This is the single most important tool that is used on a daily basis. So check it out. And there are many more. I'm not going to go listing. You have to create your own journey. You have to get out there, look around, see what talks to you, see which motivators, which people, what hits the spot for you. But it's out there. Now, the reason why WhatsApp is such an effective tool, voice notes are so effective. I have this conversation all the time with people because I use WhatsApp a lot. What are the qualities of a WhatsApp conversation versus an in-person conversation, and vice versa? There are pros and cons everywhere. I've found that the pros of a conversation taken over WhatsApp or voice note outweigh the cons in most cases. So for example, if you're in a relationship with someone, you have to build meaningful connections with your partner, and that can only be done by in-person conversations. Not that you can't also use something like WhatsApp to communicate, but you must allot a large portion of your expressions and communication for in-person, because there's a lot that is missed, a lot of body language, a lot of gestures, a lot of feelings, and a lot of different things that are overlooked and not seen when you're not communicating in person. However, in other conversations, in other forms of self-expression with other people, the benefits of a voice note, for example, do two things. And this may be a reality check for some. This is no mystery. I've pointed out to a lot of people. You send someone a 5-minute voice note, and they can't listen to it. Why? Because it's too long. That means that person, a couple things. Either they don't value their friendship or relationship with you enough to care about what you have to say. Because let me tell you something. Important conversations, important things in life are not taken care of, are not built by 60-second conversations. Quality takes time. So whether you're relaying to someone how you feel, or you're relaying to someone an interesting idea or something you want to do, it takes time. And one way or another, if there is any quality substance between two people, long conversation will be the common denominator. It's going to take place one way or another. The question is how. For most people, it's in person. In person has drawbacks, though. For example, when you are in person and having a conversation with someone, you're very often cut off, depending on what the topic is. But if the person is not disciplined in having patience and listening, you'll have a conversation where the person is thinking about the answer instead of listening to what you have to say. You'll get cut off. With voice notes, you can't get cut off. Oh, and believe it or not, people take it to the next level. They'll stop a voice note just to show how impatient people are. You could send someone a 2-minute voice note, 20 seconds in, they're already responding to you. How do you know? Because 30 seconds hasn't even passed since you sent the voice note. This is the world we're living in. This is the world of tiny, tiny attention span. And that's okay when it comes to media. If you want to build and craft beautiful relationships, meaningful relationships with the people around you, you need patience. I always say you need to listen better than you talk. That means listen more than you talk. Pay more attention to what the other person is saying than the attention you pay when you're trying to articulate your own thoughts. Listen better than you express. Listen better than you talk. That's the hallmark of a person who has discipline, who is genuinely interested in learning what other people have to say. That's the quality of a person who wants to respond accurately to your questions and inquiries or whatever it is that you shared. I could go on and on and on about this topic, communication, how various methods of communication, how they bring about different things. There's just a couple very, very significant points that you need to get across to yourself. If you don't have the patience to listen to someone's voice note for 5 or 10 minutes, or to read someone's letter, then you don't value what that person has to say. Or you're selfish. You only want that communication in the way that you want it. I'll only talk to you if it's in person, because you know, for example, that in person you might have more control of the conversation. A lot of people do this. They'll only talk in person because they know in person they control the conversation. This is very prevalent when it comes to debates and arguments or trying to resolve conflict. Voice notes are brilliant for conflict. It forces the other party to listen to everything that the other party has to say. That's why a lot of people don't like it. No, let's hash this out. Oh, you mean let's talk over each other for an hour straight and get nowhere and solve nothing? When you hone in on the craft and the art of self-expression, the means by which you communicate doesn't matter. There are more meaningful ways. There are ways that take more practice. In person, to get it right, without error, without holding back, takes more practice. It's easier if you get comfortable with expressing yourself, to express yourself in a letter, in a voice note, in something in between you and the person. It's harder and takes more concentration to do it in person. Plus, the person listening has to be receptive, and they have to not cut in, and they have to let you speak. And there's so many variables to get right if you want to express yourself with someone in person. So many less variables that you have to get right to do it electronically or other methods. But when you get into self-expression as an art, as something you are trying to master and hone in on the skill of it, you'll come to find that you don't care how the person chooses to communicate. That's their prerogative. If somebody feels comfortable sending me a text, I answer text. If someone sends me a voice note, I answer voice note. If someone calls me, they call me. I've had to resolve conflict in person, no problem. You want to sit down? Let's sit down. However it is, whatever makes you feel comfortable. My point is, again, there are so many ways. Technology is aiding in the pursuit of this discipline that I'm describing. Technology has essentially made it easy if you begin the practice of self-expression. You could start out by writing things down. You could record audio. You could record video. You could be on a video call. You could be on a phone call. You could be in person. There's so many levels and layers to how comfortable, to cater to how comfortable you are in your expression, in your honesty. It is truly amazing, truly beautiful. I could also sit and talk for hours about the benefits of it and how to apply it to every aspect of your life. I gave very light and very few examples in specific areas, but I very much do believe that it applies to just about any kind of interaction with any other human. And with Hashem's help, this information and the practice of everything I've discussed will shine a light in your life as it has in mine and continues to do so. Until next time, God bless.